Hello and welcome to Primetime Watchmaking in the News, and this will be some kind of special summer edition with quite a lot of news and other things to share coming back on the month of June and some other comments regarding this first semester. And in terms of what to expect, well, I will immediately mention that if you're in New York or in the vicinity in July, well, I clearly invite you to see the special public Patek Philippe exhibition to be held at Cipriani between the 13th and the 23rd of July. I had the chance to see this exhibition last year in London, and if you like Patek or simply watchmaking, well, you will be served, as this exhibition showcases timepieces from Patek Philippe Museum as well as contemporary timepieces, but also watchmaker and artisans demonstrations, so just enjoy. But let's now fully start this edition of Primetime, and first of all, I really want to thank you, our great audience, for all the great and inspiring feedback we receive on a regular basis. This is truly exceptionally cool and really keeps us going and wanting of going much further with our coverage. The last video regarding brand ambassadors was truly a great example of this, and I really loved your feedback, was super interesting, and I think I will soon pursue with some other topics in that direction. For instance, what do you think of all these Kickstarter-like product launches? Personally, I think it's pretty inspiring, and I'm rather happy to see so much interest about these kinds of projects. And I think it reflects a lot about the evolution of consumer behavior. Well, that's just an example, and if you have any other topic ideas, well, please feel free to share your demands in the commenting section of this channel. And coming back on this ambassador video, and just to be clear, and since I did receive quite a few messages regarding my apparent unappreciation of David Beckham, well, I did like him as a footballer, but then, well, you see what I mean. Anyhow, since the beginning of the year, we've averaged more than 500,000 video views per month. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And view time keeps going up, and most importantly, you are now almost 60,000 subscribed to this channel. Very, very cool. And oh, I have to add, the number of likes versus dislikes is really way up there with a ratio of 33:1. This makes us super proud, can't thank you enough. And when I say that this is inspiring, well, I really mean it, because sometimes the lack of support or esteem we get by some players of this industry can feel a little bit frustrating, and I will give you a quick example of this, and later on I will also come back on the reason of the slow development of our boutique, because that's also a great story. So, well, the other day, and well, it was my birthday, so quite a nice present, but on that day we got our first video to hit the 1 million view mark. Yeah, 1 million views talking about watches. Well, I think that's not too bad, and the video I'm talking about is a report we did some 3 years ago about the gyro tourbillon mechanism by Jaeger-LeCoultre. Yeah, that's quite an extraordinary timepiece. So I have to confess that I was, of course, pretty proud of this, you know, feels good. So I sent an email to Jaeger, to the Jaeger people, just to mention this, and I didn't expect a medal or whatsoever, but I didn't even get a mail back saying a simple thank you. Well, with hindsight, even an auto reply would have been nicer. Well, it's just an example of among others. I find it a bit frustrating or saddening, but it won't undermine my enthusiasm for this art. But in a context getting more and more difficult for most brands, I seriously think that all efforts made in trying to maintain some kind of interest or hype should be appreciated or taken at least into consideration. The days of these ivory towers are over, and I've already shared my thoughts on the fact that the watchmaking pie is getting smaller and smaller, and even if we go back to production numbers seen 10 or 15 years ago, well, it's already pretty damn good when we're talking high-end watchmaking. One of the main problems I see actually today is with the antagonistic interest of some shareholders of publicly traded companies drooling on dividends and share prices in comparison to the precise reality of the market shift added to some serious turnoffs or challenges. There's something that clearly doesn't work anymore in this equation. Rules of the games have changed, and everybody needs to adapt. In the first hand, too many people, meaning customers or potential customers, have the feeling that they've been kind of abused over the years by ever-increasing product prices for no reason, and there was no particular reasons. Or sometimes these price increases were reflected in huge marketing presence, and maybe a bit too much present actually. I've always said that if watchmaking was only seen through the marketing prism, then it exposes itself to the phenomenon of trends. And by definition, trends, well, they come and they go, and it's for sure going as we speak. Yeah. So not for me, and you know this, and watchmaking has always gone through cycles, but it definitely shouldn't be seen as a trend. It's a craft and should be appreciated as such. And I say this in a context where for many people there is also the questionable functional reason of being of a mechanical watch in this digital world. And I'm not even talking about a younger generation born in the midst of it. It concerns everybody, as I see more and more older generation people not wearing watches anymore, or even flipping to smart watches actually. Yeah, that's another threat or reality, as well as producing industrial-like products and selling them as expensive crafted items, well objects that are maybe well manufactured, but sometimes they have lost their soul. So all in all, times have changed, and what worked before doesn't necessarily work today, but to have a mechanically driven time-telling machine on your wrist will for me always mean something very special and poetic. It clearly expresses a link from the past, the present, and even the future, as the notion of time is not bound to disappear. Well, at least not yet, and I guess we still have to wait a bit for the first actual time machines to work for us. So let's now talk about some watches and other watchmaking news. And first, let's mention the launch of the new watch brand called Singer, seen in June. Some of you might already be familiar with that name, since it's associated with some pretty neat looking cars, mostly known for their work on some serious restoration and upgrades of vintage Porsche 911s. These cars are just exquisite, and yes, you can feel that I'm a big early 911 fan, and so far there has only been like 70 cars that have been produced or retrofitted by Singer. But I know that the waiting list is super long, and these cars cost in the vicinity of $500,000, so not for everybody. And I know of only one being in Switzerland, for instance. So they've been doing so for quite some years, and they have now just launched a very cool chronograph based on the Agengraph chrono movement that we talked about earlier in the year. So reason why the launch party was held at Agenor's Geneva facility. This movement was first seen encased in a Fabergé watch, the Visionnaire Chrono, but here it's being interpreted slightly differently with a sportier feel to it, and obviously with a link to these old school 911s. The case is different, it's made out of titanium, and the hands are also different, mainly the second hand, which is much bigger, and the hour counter goes up to 60 hours. I don't recall having seen this before anywhere else. So this first edition is limited to 50 timepieces and are priced around 40,000 Swiss francs, and I know this is quite a lot of money, but not too bad considering the fine mechanics that they hold. Vacheron Constantin just launched a new series of 6 timepieces in the Traditionnel collection, and though these are not really new models per se, the novelty is that they all come in pink gold cases with very chic grey slate dials. The models range from simple hour-minute version, day-date version, to the 14-day tourbillon, and also including the perpetual calendar version. So nothing revolutionary, but just a little stylish revamp in the collection. Still talking about watches, just wanted to mention that MB&F came a little while ago with a final limited edition of the LM1, and I guess you guys know that I really like this watch, really like it. And the originality of this special edition is that it comes in a steel case and is limited to 18 timepieces, and the reason I mentioned this is that the other day I was at the Mad Gallery, that's MB&F's Geneva boutique or art gallery, and they have the very last one available over there if any of you are interested. And talking about MB&F enables me to mention quite a sad news, unfortunately, because we recently learned that Peter Speakmarine, a very talented English watchmaker who helped MB&F during the very early stages of the company, well, Peter Speakmarine just left the company that bears his name. For those of you that know this brand, well, there were many interesting timepieces with a distinctive identity that went through his hands, and we naturally wish him all the best in the future. So the brand will remain, but it's just another example of the risk of associating your own name on a brand for which you might lose control one day. And still in the business side of things, Vulcain, that's the brand famous for its cricket watch, a mechanical alarm watch priced quite decently. Well, this brand was facing major financial problems. They reduced heavily the number of employees of the last few months, and one could feel worried that it could even get worse. Well, this brand has now changed hands, and it's been taken over by the people that own Anonimo, another quite interesting brand, so we hope that this move will actually help stabilize both brands, because I admit that I quite like Vulcain. fun, simple and cool watches, also known as the President's Watch. And the people that used to own Vulcain also owned a brand called Hermès and Stübi, and the main particularity of these watches is that they had this kind of mechanical golf counter. So as you play, you could keep your score directly on your watch, something that obviously a smartwatch can do today. So this brand has also been sold, but this time to a Japanese sport equipment brand, Mizuno, and it will be interesting to see what they will do with it. And among other recent product launches, I would just like to mention that Parmigiani Fleurier is celebrating the 10th anniversary of their partnership with the Montreux Jazz Festival, one of the world's most recognized jazz festival, and they did so with a special 20 limited edition of the Tonda Metrograph. Laurent Ferrier, the very niche high-end watch brand that I like a lot, just released a new minimalist timepiece, the Galet Régulateur, which is inspired by the early school piece of Mr. Ferrier, and this watch comes in either in a white gold or steel case and houses the brand's micro-rotor movement. Hermès also released two new versions in its Arceau collection, and both these watches are very elegant, coming with a 40mm steel case with a very refined hazelnut brown dial and the brand's very own automatic H1837 movement, as well as a very nice blue lacquered dial version. But unfortunately this one only comes with a quartz movement, but it's an understandable way of still coming with nice watches at an affordable price, and for Hermès, I think for their clientele it just makes sense. So just for info, the price of the automatic version is set at 5,000 Swiss francs and 3,000 Swiss francs for the quartz version, so really not bad. And finally, and I understand that brands need to create some buzz around them to exist and get noticed, but as far as I can recall, this is the first time I see some kind of political link with models introduced by a brand. And in this case it's Corum, and it's in its Bubble collection. Yes, you heard me well, as Corum just introduced two special models, one called Bubble America First and the other one Bubble Brexit. I know that Corum has a pretty good sense of humor, but sincerely not so sure about the pertinence of this move, apart that they indeed succeeded in me talking about it, so you see. On a very different topic, we attended the EPHG trade fair here in Geneva, and this fair is mainly dedicated to the suppliers of the watchmaking industry. It's a very interesting event for us to attend because it gives a pulse on how the business is going for these suppliers and therefore the industry. These suppliers are really on the front line when business slows down, and this has been accentuated quite hardly with the internalization of competencies by the big players of the industry. So most of them have suffered rather harshly in the past 2 years, but it seems that some of them are seeing signs of a slight recovery. This has to be taken with much caution, but the important I wanted to make is that since the big brands had verticalized the production process and therefore given less job to these suppliers, well, it has weakened them, and by ricochet it hurts smaller brands that are relying extensively on these suppliers. It creates some kind of vicious circle, and you have to remember that watchmaking has historically been the result of a network of competencies, the adjunction of the best in their very specialized field of craftsmanship, technology and so forth. Anyhow, we will shortly pull a few reports on some pretty cool stuff seen there. It should interest you. And while we were there, there was also a few roundtables organized during this, and we had the pleasure to meet up with Dominique Renaud, a fantastic and very inventive watchmaker, who showed us the evolution of his revolutionary escapement system using a blade resonator configuration. This is something we had talked about on the Watches TV last year, and it was therefore very cool for us to see the actual prototype functioning after a good year of development. This is something we will come back on for sure in early this fall, as the first fully assembled watch should be unveiled, and I guess we will have a nice little sneak peek before its actual launch. And to round up with the APHG, I have to say that it was mighty cool to meet some of you guys over there. Always nice to be in direct contact with people of our audience, just love it. So let's now talk about the boutique, because yes, this has been a massive disappointment for me. I sincerely want the best for this industry, and I naively thought that providing a new and complementary way of purchasing watches was a good idea. But I guess some people think differently, and I was asked very firmly to stop the boutique. I won't go in the details of it, it's just a bit too complicated, but this has naturally been a very big blow, since I was kind of counting on this to help us finance our activity. I'd been working on this for quite a while, so to see all these efforts efforts going down the drain, well, that was not very cool to say the least. And this is actually the main reason why I postponed season 2 of our watchmaking road trip adventure. There was just too much going on at the same time, and since the Watches TV still remains a rather small operation, well, I had to prioritize. So again, and since you were not aware of everything, I have to say that all your appreciative comments on what we do gave me extra energy during this awkward phase and helped me keeping being inspired. So I really want to personally thank you for this. I apologize for all those that applied for the watch tripping adventure, but we'll get this back rolling next year, I promise. And regarding the boutique, well, I can already tell you that I'm currently working on it again. Slightly different, as you can imagine, but some cool ideas coming up, and hopefully for September we'll have something more significant online. And in the meantime, and since a few of you asked me this, well, I just wanted to add something regarding my glasses. I know some people like them, some people don't, but they will be made available for purchase starting from now. And the side story of these glasses that they will help finance another artistic project with my good friend Andre regarding some kind of crazy movie that we are currently producing. Well, I thank you for your time, and just as a little teaser, we have some very cool video reports coming your way very soon. Here's a quick glimpse giving you some idea on these reports, and I wish you all the best. And for info, there won't be an edition of Prime Time in early August. We will also take some time off to recharge the batteries. So great summer to all of you. Thanks again for everything, and viva watchmaking!